we have now our set is built, and we have our beautiful model Becca back here. But before we get to the model part, what we're going to do is start with lighting. You can't really take a great photo without light. Now I have my camera set up just to the right of the video camera, lined up straight over here, and we're going to be using one light, and that's going to be ultimately creating contrast. Since we're doing Halloween, we want to make sure that we have a very contrasty type of photo. What that's going to mean is that the light's going to be hitting her more from the side, creating a lot more shadows on her other side. Now I don't know if you can tell using these lights, but right now this light is hitting me straight on. You're probably getting light on both sides. If I turn around like this, you're probably getting more shadow over on this side and more light on one. That's what we're basically going to be doing with this light. Now we're using an Octabox studio light, and right now we have a big diffuser on it. So it's going to create a somewhat soft light, and depending on how close or far we have it from her, it may make it a little softer, a little harsher, and also depending on how much of an angle we have between her and the camera going to the side, that'll create more of the contrast. So we're actually going to start out at the very beginning with this light coming off almost on top of the camera. It's kind of almost simulate what you would see if you're using the flash on top of your camera, and you're going to see that it's going to be very, very soft but flatter light. Then we're going to go ahead and slowly move it around to the side, and you'll see how the contrast starts coming in to add more of the spookiness to the shot. In the first shot, what I want to do is go ahead and just take this, rotate it straight at our model Becca, and I am going to magically take the shot just by simply snapping these fingers. So now you can see that the light is actually coming in pretty much straight on her. It's probably creating some shadows of her back on the wall over here, and it's not really creating that much depth around her. So I'm going to go ahead, take it now, move it over to the side a little bit. Not going to move it too much yet. And by doing this, the light's going to go across her. You're actually going to have a little more shadow back here, light up here, and more shadows over on that side. All right, now the line that's going from the camera to the model, this is our main line of shooting here. And right now the light is only really maybe about 30 degrees off the side of the camera. We're going to go ahead and move it more, maybe about 60 degrees. Eventually we're going to create a right angle, but we're going to just kind of slowly move it over. So I'm going to move this light over a little more. If the camera had actually been moved over in this direction with the light, all we're doing is taking that same first shot and just flooding her body on all directions with that light. Since we're leaving the camera still, we're only moving the light around. We're creating that more of that contrast as it slowly wraps around to the side, kind of like when the sun's going over the mountains. Now we're going to do one more. I'm going to move this light as much over here as I can. All right, so now what we do, we have the light at that 90-degree angle. Now what I want to show, though, is what's going to happen when Becca starts rotating her head and her body around. So go ahead and rotate a little bit towards me, face right about here. Okay, and then take that shot. Now rotate a little more this way and bring your shoulders towards me some. There you go. Chin down a little bit. Okay, and another shot. Now go ahead and rotate where your shoulders are even more this way. Now her head is facing away from this light. You're actually able to see the video light on her face right now, but when we take the shot, you're actually getting just a flash. Now, you're getting really a harsh line here between her face on the side that's towards the light and the one that's away from the light. So you're really creating a lot of contrast. Is it too much? Probably for what we want. Now I want to do one more, and I want you to go ahead and rotate. You can rotate your knees some, just so your face is really kind of facing away. Okay, then one more shot like this. And now the face is almost completely in shadow. And you can see that just by moving the model instead of the light, we're kind of creating a lot of the same type of effect that we did with the contrast as when we moved just the light and had the model sitting in the same position. So we need to determine how do we want the model to sit. Well, what I'm trying to go after is like a Victorian stoic lady who's maybe the matron or head of her household. So the way she's sitting now is very elegant, very nice. But what I want you to do is have your face a little more this way, actually almost towards the camera, but just off camera a little bit, right about here. So we go ahead and take the shot like this. You can see how the light is washing on her face. Now, I do want to go ahead and get a little more light, because what I want to have is a little light hitting her face here, but also hitting that far cheek. So it's highlighting a little bit of that cheek and a little bit of that other eye. I don't want to have too much shadow on that far side of her face. So I actually want to go ahead and move this light a little more to the front, so she's not having to face her face too far from the camera. I'm going to go ahead and move this towards her a little more now. I'm sorry, a little more towards the camera. And right now the light is actually going across her face, and I can tell just by the angle of it that it's going to be washing and hitting this side of her cheek right here, which is what I want. So let's go ahead and take this. And how does that look? Now, I really love the angle and I love where the light's coming, but I think her face is a little too overexposed. I want to get a little more contrast. So I'm not going to change anything on my camera. I'm going to keep my camera settings at about f5, ISO 100, and 1/200th for the shutter speed. I don't want to modify any of that because I don't want to really get too much of the background in focus or out of focus and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and just take my flash unit and lower the power on this. And I want to go down to full stop. Now let's go ahead and you're going to make your face a little more like this. There you go, perfect. Let's take this one more time. And that right there is actually bringing down the power quite a bit. Her face doesn't look quite as overexposed. Before it was a little more white. It was not you didn't have the natural colors and the rosiness of the cheeks and so forth. Now we're actually letting in more or less light, so she's not getting washed out nearly as much. By lighting that background, to me it feels like we're actually getting too much on the background. What I want to do is go back to how we were before. We're concentrating on the model herself, so I want to go ahead, move it this way. Now, if I want to, I can make the background very dark by feathering the light even more. That means I can move it away so it's not even hitting the background at all. It's just hitting Becca. So I'm going to take one more shot like this and we'll show you what happens. Now Becca should be lit pretty much the same as she was before. The background though, much, much darker. So we're basically saying that we just want the light to kind of come out to here. It's not able to get back there. I want the background a little bit lighter, so we're going to go back to how we were before. Just feather it back this way. We're now letting a little bit of that light go to the background. Magic shot, boom, and there we go. So this is actually going to be the shot that we're going to work with. We are going to take this shot and see if we can maybe pull out some poltergeist or some spirits or something from the netherworld. And that'll be in the editing part of the tutorial.